Good evening, everybody. I'm delighted to welcome everybody here out there on social media to listen to the questions that I'm putting in front of Amko Leenarts, who's the Director of Design at Ford of Europe, of the various questions that people have asked us in the last few weeks. And I'm sure it's going to be a fascinating time with everybody together. And I should just make the quickest introduction to Amko here. As I say, Director of Design at Ford of Europe, the man who's responsible for all the present and future cars that we'll all be driving. So Amko, maybe you could just say hello and introduce yourself. I'm sure far better than I ever could.
Thank you so much, Steve. So my name is Amko, Design Director of Ford, as you might know. I'm really excited to be here with you. I'm sure you have a lot of burning questions over a variety of topics, and really happy to spend time this evening, and can't wait. So shoot.
Terrific. Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll run through each of the questions that were asked. I'll read out the people's names so everybody knows that these are the genuine questions that were asked of us, and we'll just start from the top and see how we go. So the first question is from Peter Lacresse, and his question is this: Stellantis has different brands, whereas Ford has only one brand within Europe. Will Ford find a way to go into premium design in Ford vehicles in future? And related to that maybe is, how important will color be in color and trim in design to get there?
Yeah, so first answer on the question is really, my goal is obviously create desirability and trying to tell unique stories that only Ford can tell. With that, I think we have a hyper-rich history and a glorious future. So with that, I think premiumness comes to these kind of ingredients, and we're constantly building to do so. So I don't think we have to invent another brand. Ford is a wonderful brand to continue to grow. It's the only brand in the world that actually sells cars starting at 8,000 euros all the way to 500,000 and still have an oval on it. So it's actually the uniqueness of what our brand is, and I'm sure you will continue to find premiumness in the future.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question is from Nick Morris. Which past Fords do you look back for inspiration for the future?
So there is, many ways of looking at it. We have been reviving nameplates in the last year or two. As you know, I personally, with my team, designed the new Ford GT, which obviously the original was the GT40, but it was definitely a car that you could recognize is passed really well. We just revived the Bronco, and I can't believe it took us so long to give Jeep a really hard time because they were on their own for quite a while, and it's great to see that we created a product that clearly is overachieving towards the competition. So that's great. We have done it with Puma, and we've also expanded existed nameplates like the Mustang with the Mustang McGhee. So the inspiration is there always of the brand and the vehicles that we do. However, I do like to say that designers are always interested in the new, and they are interested in the unexpected. They're interested, and they get their inspiration from a very wide variety of topics. So I can assure you, though, the Ford design team will always design a Ford. They can't help it. So it's a really exciting time now.
Great. Okay, so keeping us moving along quickly, so thank you. Mark Flesser asked, Will Ford create a front-end design queue that can last beyond a generation or two, like BMW's kidney grills, etc.? Ford has some success in recent decades, but tends to change direction. And what's the need for that consistency over the generations of models?
So I'd like to argue here with Mark, because in fact, looking at the Ford models at this point in time globally, it's never been as consistent as it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that, in fact, through what we call a Superman grill. So it's the Superman sign, and being stretched and skilled in all sorts of different kind of proportions. And frankly, over the last 3-4 generations of cars, we have been doing that. So I think we are actually doing it. Now, I think there is this new kid in town called the electric car. There we're going to see obviously new ways of how to do that, because you don't need necessarily that big grill opening in the front of a car.
Sure.
You don't need the same type of cooling. You can change the architecture of a front end in a different way, and this is actually the moment where we can get to that next step, and then be very consistent moving forward. So I can't wait to show what we have up on our sleeves there.
Next question, curiously enough, it ties in nicely, is regarding electric cars. So this is from Frank Willem in Wolfsburg. So careful what you say. So Frank says, which design elements will Ford use in the future to fascinate the customer and to hide the depth of the body side necessary for containing the depth of the batteries? Is it a challenge or an opportunity when cars and technical specs are getting similar between brands?
There's many reasons why cars are being similar between brands. There are obviously basic kind of package rules that we have to do in order to meet all sorts of security features, right? Also, the human body, even though it is plus or minus the same around the world, it's still evolved, and so there is. And somebody told me once in some sort of data point that between in one segment between all of the competition, there is around 15 to 20 mil of difference between each car. Wow. Which actually gives me a really proud feeling about how different we can make it within that actually super small margin. Now, I think the other thing I'd like to state is there's also a difference between how we've been approaching car design in the past and how we're going to approach car design in the future. So in the past, it's been always about purely about the styling, about the actual sculpture. Now, our job became much more complicated because we need to do that really well, but at the same time, we're moving from a product to an experience design, which is much more broader. It's got to do with the way the car is welcoming you. It's got to do with the way that you interact with the car digitally, both over the cloud as well as through your phone, as well as when you're in and around the car. So there's a lot of movement there that I think you can appreciate.
Absolutely. Okay, now we'll just change direction here from the big picture, perhaps to the executional picture of power. John Maxwell asks, is there any possibility of a Focus RS based around a hybrid tech like the hybrid Puma for WRC next year? And maybe as a throwaway line, or what about a mid-engine homage to the RS200 with flappy paddles and a carbon tub, etc.?
Love it. you know, homage vehicles, as you say, are definitely always really tempting. Also because they're somewhat easy. You take some elements from the past of the car, and we can turn it into the future. We are designing the future the whole time, so it's relatively easy. So it's good if we can do that, but it's not really we believe the way forward.
Okay.
When we talk about RS, it's been such a great brand that has been very exciting for us at Ford throughout history. So, to ask me personally, of course, I would love to bring an RS back pretty much on every vehicle that we make. But it's coming with a challenge, and like I just explained, the world of electric is different. It is already hyper fast. So our new McGhee GT is going from a 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3.7 seconds. So, you know, it's got more torque than an actual GT has. So it's already amazingly. So if everybody is a superhero, how can the superhero even be more superhero? So that's really what's on my mind, because you know, maybe we have to think about is RS a mode in the way that you can give that much more power to an electric car, for example, right? Now, at the same time, and I know it's a little bit of a long answer, Steve, but it's such an exciting topic. At the same time, Steve and I have been working on a little design exercise on actually where I've asked my designers to look at, if we would do an RS 200 in the future, what would it look like? And that's in the book, so I won't reveal here what it's going to look like, but it's really quite excited, and my team has gotten great fun in the last couple of weeks to do that. So.
Well, and I should also thank you and your team, and everybody that gets the book will see an insight into that reinvention of an RS icon from the 80s. And I've got to say, it's stunning, actually. Some of the work that the team has done has been great, and I'm sure they've had great fun doing it. But, you know, if anybody ever wants to see firsthand the passion that's within Ford's design team today, this is the best illustration you can get. It's pretty cool stuff. So back to the questions. Jeremy Rice has asked an interesting one, actually, I think here. In the pursuit of efficiency, are Ford pursuing lightweight and stripping out some of the superfluous specifications we have in modern cars? You know, the stuff we use once and forget about.
Well, let me put it this way. We are realizing that we can be more essential. And I hope to not disappoint you in the future from that point of view. Mm-hmm. We did have, to give an example, overall reduce the amount of buttons, for example, on the interior by 50% in our previous generation of cars. And another 50% on the MCAs on Fiesta and Focus. So at least the cleanliness is there, and for the rest, the great addition of all our new cars now have modems, and if customers are so nice to give us the data of how they use the car, we can actually have much more insight of how much people use different functions, and actually adjust to what the customer is looking for. So that's really quite a cool piece of technology that we've got there.
I agree, and it's a great way of saving weight along the way. Is taking off some of the stuff if it's never used. Yeah, I think it's a really nice.
Exactly, point. And weight, especially for EVs, obviously is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I'm driving, I haven't told you this actually, Amko. When I'm driving across to Cologne in a few weeks' time, I'm driving a McGhee. So I will be driving a McGhee across from the UK across to Cologne. So I'll be proving firsthand it's possible to do it on one charge. So I'll see you in a few weeks in a McGhee. So next question, always something that I'm fascinated to see people love so much in car design is color and trim. And Ian Maverick, may not be his last name, says, too many cars now have dull black, mundane black interiors. Could Ford experiment with color again in their interiors? Maybe bring back velour. There we go. So there's a material from the past.
Yeah. You know what? I will. let's try it. Let's try and bring it back, and I will give Ian the credit if I succeed.
Go for it. Okay, we'll look forward to some of that stripy fabric trim from days gone by. Next question comes from John Day, and maybe it's an interesting one because it's a semi-political one against governmental views. With ownership being discouraged by some governments, has Ford considered changing the product away from longevity into a consumable product designed to last a shorter lifetime, but at a lower price point?
Difficult question to answer. We keep putting more stuff in cars. I give you that, which automatically makes it A, more heavy and bigger, and B, makes it more expensive. I've always thought, especially in the last couple of years, and you go and sit back again in an old, first generation Fiesta, for example, and it drives fine, and you wonder why did everything went so big, and so can we not do it? And then I go back to my engineers and talking about minimum thickness and everything else, and it's just really really hard these days to make a small car that fulfills the requirements. And these are not requirements that are being decided by Ford, but it's the requirements that are decided by external factors.
It's true. Here's a question that was bound to get asked. Phil Young says, is there any likelihood of a Ford now or in the future bearing the Cosworth badge?
Nope.
Okay.
That's as simple as that, because like I said, we're going by 2025, all our 2025, all our cars are going to be electrified, and by 28, our entire portfolio is full BEV.
So here's a question for that interim period then, from Alan McGhee. Is it time for a Cougar ST? 250 plus horsepower would be a step further, maybe a Cougar RS.
I love the idea. The interim period, as you stated, is a most interesting one. Not only because of these opportunities and how easy it potentially would to do. And I hate to give kind of a business answer, but at the end of the day, the ones that survive, let's say the
fish that swim upstream, yeah.
The cut in like the business plans, are unfortunately these ones. We usually don't make any more cars that only sell, you know, 1 or 2 or 3% of the volume. It's a pity, because we can have real exciting vehicles, and a Kuga, as you stated, is actually a really capable vehicle. It's got the same engine lineup as a Focus. There is a Focus ST, so how difficult would it be? But it's still a challenge.
Never say never.
Never say never.
So next question comes from Giorgio Bellucci, which probably explains his next question. He's no doubt from Italy, and he says his question is, Gear was the Italian advanced studio of Ford. In future, will Ford have a touch of Italian style or lifestyle more than simply using Vignale as a top-end trim?
I think it's got to do with context. I think Italy was very much popular at a certain time to be where everybody wanted to be part of that movement, rightfully. Yeah. I think then in car history we kind of shifted to, let's say, German quality and precision. And luckily now we're at a time where I think being unique is going to be a good thing again. And I think we've in the industry as a whole, we've lost that for a while, and I think we definitely gonna have uniqueness moving forward. Really stand out from the crowd, and like I stated before, create cars that tell stories that only Ford can do. So that is an awesome perspective. And then, you know, we've got studios all around the world. We've got 9 design studios around the world. So we're getting, and I'm working with practically all of the different studios, and we get a lot of really great collaborations. If it is from California, if it is from Melbourne, if it is from Shanghai, there are new influences that really give us new kind of insights and give us a really fresh perspective, and I'm really embracing that approach.
That's terrific to hear. I mean, it's such an international company. There's so much to draw on its history and talent. Next question comes from Graham Hatch. What does Amko see in terms of shapes that are popular across the different vehicle lines? Is it SUVs for just the foreseeable future? Or is there going to be a change to autonomous pods, a return to sedans and estates, or will it evolve again to something new?
It's the 1 billion question of the industry. Yeah, there is clearly, you know, the movement towards SUV is there, and it's not because, I just want to state that for the record, it's not because we necessarily are pushing that as such. There is a great demand. So people want more space. People want they want to sit actually higher up, want to have more overview over the road. They don't want to feel vulnerable, and that is in the end the big driver why SUVs work the way they work, and why it's got such a large following. It doesn't mean that we cannot make exciting cars though, and McGhee is a proof. If we would ever do a Kuga RS, it would be a great one to work. But so yeah, what is the next step after SUV? I can't really say too much about it, but there is definitely a lot of work going on how to reinvent silhouettes of cars.
Oh. We'll have an interesting conversation when I'm over. Next question, and this is from Paul Berry from the RS Owners Club, a name I know and a man I know well. What are Amko's thoughts on the future of sports vehicles come full electrification and the replacing of the sensory experience of the premium sports car that's currently delivered through an ICE and internal combustion engine and things like exhaust sounds and the sensory experience?
Yeah, it's interesting how I've got this presentation where we talk about how we're changing the bragging rights. So when you have a really when you have an older car with all the right power and with the engine, and you're going to open the hood and you talk about the engine and how much it can do, or how much you've been able to tune it. And then these days you open up a McGhee and it's got a frunk, which is a little bathtub that you can put full of ice and beer, or you can do any type of experience with it. So clearly, it's a different type of experience that we're looking for, and I think there are still a lot of great touches that we continue to use. If it is big wheels, big exciting wheels, if it is on the interior, the touches of new type of fabric that gives you that real sportive feeling, new type of stitching, and these things will come and continue to excite you guys.
Okay. Another question from a man I know, and probably a name you'll remember, Nick Zay Smith. His question is, when was the last time you drove for fun, and where was it?
Last time, it is not such a long time ago. It was actually a Mackelie GT, and I was at a media drive in Croatia, in Pula, where we, as we do with media drives, we invite a large amount of journalists over a period of 3 weeks out of the different countries, and we let them drive. And I was honored to help the Dutch, the French, and the English journalists for a couple of days, and had really great fun with this car. But I was actually, coming back to the previous question, what I was surprised about with this car is we actually put sound on the inside of the vehicle and on the outside of the vehicle to actually mimic. Well, we're not mimicking a V8 at all, but it gives you a different type of sound that gives you a different type of excitement. So I'm really curious if you guys will ever have the chance to drive this Mackelie GT, what you think about that.
Okay, thank you. Moving from the other end of the range from the Mackelie to small three-door hatches, Lee Davis asks, will Ford ever make an appealing, sporty, small three-door hatch again? 5 doors just don't do it for me or the purists.
The answer is no.
The world has changed.
Simply, three-door cars unfortunately died for a while, and that's purely because of practicality and people that want to buy them. It's a too small of a percentage of sales. That's the simple truth. And having unfortunately we have kind of proven that 5-door Focus RSs are pretty exciting as well, and you can put your kids in easily. So
And on the RS subject, the best-selling RS cars have always had 4 and 5 doors. I look back in history, and it was the Sapphire, and then it was the more recent hatch. And yeah, the RS buyer actually gets more practicality. There's more sales. There's more market appeal in cars with more doors. Absolutely.
Yep.
So, and we're getting towards the end of the questions, and thank you, and thank you for everybody that asked them here. John Maxwell says, and it relates to a question I think we touched on here, but it's a chance for us to sort of all be passionate about things we love. John Maxwell said, as Ford gears up more towards electrification, will the company stretch out the petrol engines as long as it can?
Sorry, stretching out.
Run them.
What does that mean?
Run them out. Run them in production as long as they can.
Okay. Well, like I said, key dates are 2025 and 2028, or actually 2030, I think. Sorry, I made a mistake previously. There is this growth in demand from different areas that is phenomenal. So to give you an example, in the early days it was relatively simple because we would make a car and we would homologate it for an entire region. These days that's becoming more and more difficult because there are different rules in different countries, but also it goes even further. When cities like London, Paris, Amsterdam are announcing that they won't admit any petrol cars anymore in the cities, then the petrol engine is simply going to die a little bit quicker than we might want to. So I would say it is gonna go away. We're gonna run it until it doesn't make sense anymore.
Okay. Thank you. And the last question I've got on the list, and it's been a long list, and we've done a great job to get through them so far, so thank you, is Liam Forrestal asks, and going back to the past a bit here, what classic Ford European Ford design cues would you love to incorporate in a new direction?
Yeah, like I stated before, we have done that with a couple of cars, and then design cues. I would say if I can have a double deck spoiler on the rear of the car, then I would be delighted.
I know you have a soft spot for the XR4i. We'll keep watching for that biplane spoiler to return. Well, that's it. Thank you, Amko. Thank you, everybody, for the questions here. I think it's been terrific. If everybody's enjoyed it, maybe we'll do it again another time. But I wanted to thank Amko so much for his time here. It's a wonderful chance for everybody out there on social media to really hear the chief designer give us his responses from a European perspective of what the director of design has to say for the company's future. And we'll probably talk a little bit more together as well when I'm across, and we'll share some of the material from the book. We've got lots of exciting things planned. I should again thank both Amko and his team for the amount of support they've given me in my books. And I hate to sound like I'm doing a pitch, but you're going to be really shocked, everybody, of what's in the next one. And we're going to show together how closely we've worked by some of the RS work that Amko's hinted here in this conversation. But we'll be speaking more together from Germany. I'll be there both with Amko and some of the other designers. And I hope everybody's enjoyed this conversation that we've had here tonight. So thank you, Amko, and Thanks everybody for joining in and watching. I really appreciate it. Okay, thanks then. Bye now.
Thank you, Steve.